Hello and welcome to another edition of Weapons and Warfare. For Straight Arrow News, I'm your host, Ryan Robertson. Just ahead on this week's episode, we're getting nautical. Meet Minerva, the latest creation from the folks at Ghostworks Marine. Built with cutting-edge carbon fiber composite technology, see why this could be the next go-to craft for amphibious assaults and special operations. And we go one-on-one with the folks from Q Intel. See why this civilian-run intel agency could be just what the DoD leadership is looking for in our Weapon of the Week. But first, some headlines you may have missed. Concerns are growing among some NATO members about the potential pullback of U.S. security support on NATO's Eastern Front under the Trump administration. In Poland, which sits very near NATO's border with Russia, there is footage from UK broadcaster Sky News showcasing a nearly empty beach with little to offer in terms of protection. But just a few hours away is the US Navy's base at Redzekowo, a key part of the collaboration between NATO and the US. Captain Michael Dwan, who commands a task force there, says the base is ready to respond to any threats from Russia.
You can see that these missiles are moved to enable. Okay, we are on mission, right? These missiles are ready to go.
Dwan added there haven't been any recent changes to the task force's responsibilities with the new administration. From one border to another, President Trump authorized the U.S. military to take control of federal lands along the southern border to support his immigration agenda. POTUS issued a memo directing key cabinet secretaries to facilitate this transfer so military activities can occur on designated national defense areas. One area mentioned is the Roosevelt Reservation, a narrow strip of land along the U.S.-Mexico border in California, Arizona, and New Mexico. In the memo, Trump said there is still an invasion at the border. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports only 7,200 migrant encounters in March. Over the last 4 years, though, the monthly average was 155,000 encounters. CBP also says daily southwest border apprehensions fell to around 230 per day, a 95% drop from the previous administration's 4-year daily average of 5,100 apprehensions. General Atomics Electromagnetic Systems is announcing a partnership with Israel's Rafael Advanced Defense Systems to produce a long-range, precision-guided strike missile called Bullseye. General Atomics will serve as the prime contractor in the U.S. to build the Bullseye, ensuring the missile meets U.S. military specs for launch from air, ground, and sea at an affordable price. Scott Forney, president of GAEMS, expressed his excitement about the collaboration, saying, "We're thrilled to work with Rafael to bring Bullseye to life. This missile will be made in the U.S. for our military customers, supporting a variety of important precision fire missions for the Department of Defense and our coalition partners." Forney added, by leveraging Rafael's extensive experience in missile design and testing, they can lower risks and development costs while still delivering a highly capable missile at a reduced price point. In a press release, General Atomics says the Bullseye will comply with U.S. military standards and be manufactured at their facility in Tupelo, Mississippi. There's a history of military innovation making its way to civilian life. Think GPS, EpiPens, and night vision technology.
Do you want to see something really cool? Of course. Turn off the lights. Industrial strength night vision goggles.
Holy thing from the Fantastic Four shit.
All right, settle down, boys. What's not talked about as often is civilian tech being adapted by the military. But for a few years now, a Michigan-based company with a proven track record in elite boat racing has been working to bring their innovations to American warfighters. And that's the subject of this week's debrief. It was a picture-perfect day on the Potomac when we set out with the crew from Ghostworks Marine. So we're driving around right now on the Minerva, maneuvering on the Minerva, as it were, pulling a hard right turn right now,
going about 37, 30 knots on that turn right there. Very tight, very maneuverable. The speed that this craft is able to maintain through those different maneuvers without putting a lot of strain on the operator's body or whoever's in the cab, their body, means that you can run this boat for hours on end. You can do high, fast-paced maneuvers, and at the end of the ride, you're not going to be drained. So when you get to shore and potentially have to, perform your real mission, you're going to be up for the task.
At a little more than 46 feet long, the newest M-hull vessel from the Holland, Michigan firm cuts an impressive figure on the water. But it's what the M40 can do on the job that really gets your attention.
So this boat carries 750 gallons of fuel, about a 700-mile range at a pretty healthy cruising speed, and fully customizable. But she's got a 15-foot beam, so for the length she carries substantially more than any other boat. She's around 16,000 pounds with fuel, and she, full displacement with gear, she's almost 30,000 pounds. So you've got 13,000 pounds of payload capacity with range, which is pretty remarkable.
Also remarkable, its carbon fiber construction, something Ghostworks CEO Brooke Kirschbaumer says sparks plenty of conversations about cost and ease of maintenance.
The simple answer to that is, well, it is easy to maintain. It's actually really easy to repair. And it's even more sustainable than every other thing that we're using right now in the maritime space. So carbon has a really long shelf life. It's thermo-resistant, so it doesn't expand and contract the same way that metal does. So that makes it a little bit easier when you're putting it through its paces and it's experiencing swift temperature changes.
Ghostworks says the Minerva was manufactured at unprecedented speed, going from design to completed sea trials in just 6 months.
We come from the high-performance racing space. We're, as you've already asked me, we're misfits and mavericks. So we come from that world that's been using carbon in maritime for over 40 years. And what that's allowed us to do is really push the envelope.
You might think a bunch of engineers pushing the envelope would be something military types are comfortable with. It turns out they need some convincing.
We get asked all the time, what happens if the boat cracks? What happens if you get a hole? We send every craft out with a vacuum sealed pack that actually you can just put on the boat, wet or dry. It'll make it safe so that you can bring it back in, and then we just carve out, put a new piece in, reinstate it just the same way that we would do with metal. It's just a different process.
A process we got to see firsthand thanks to a quick demonstration with Ian Faber.
You can tune resins into different speeds. You can get them down to 20 minutes, where that's more of a polyester vinyl ester product. What we use is epoxy, so you have a couple hours before it's set. And again, there are different formulas to achieve different manufacturing rates.
So we know the boat has good bones, but it's really out on the water where the Minerva makes its best case as a potential option for sailors, Marines, special operators, basically any squad that needs to get in and out quickly while also distributing freedom to adversaries.
Well, just the fact that you can maintain your line of sight and your parallel to the horizon the whole time throughout the turn means that when you come off, when you list to the side, it doesn't take your gun line up and into the air. It allows you to maintain, if you were engaging a threat, it allows you to maintain eyes on that threat so that you can responsibly and actively and effectively engage that threat, protect the force.
And the Minerva helps protect its occupants' knees, back, and joints. When you're on the water in the craft, you can't help but notice just how smooth the ride is. The pilot and crew aren't subject to many of the forces endured by operators of monohull craft. It's something Kirschbaumer sees as a major selling point.
The thing that is the most interesting that we hear from everybody when they get off, you don't feel like you're going fast when you're on her. You feel incredibly safe. And when she turns, she'll turn on a dime. She will hug. There's the old line from Pretty Woman, this corner's like it's on rails. That's exactly what she does. So she makes you feel so strong in everything that you're doing. You never lose line of sight. So you can see 360 degrees around you, regardless of what type of maneuvers you're making.
As for what's next for the M40, a Ghostworks executive tells Weapons and Warfare they received lots of positive feedback about the ride quality, low slamming, flat turns, and the versatility of the modular platform. Adding they have interest from several naval forces, the Coast Guard, some border patrol units, as well as some commercial applications. All these potential customers say they are very excited about how easily Ghostworks can tailor the vessel to their needs.
Serving you clarity through context, our mission at SAN is to deliver the news straight down the middle. We're different from mainstream media because we spotlight distorted headlines and show you how to do it too. Discover stories that right and left-leaning outlets are choosing not to cover by using our Media Mist tool. Download the SAN app and turn on notifications to have straight facts delivered right to your phone or tablet, and get straight facts anytime at san.com.
To attend a defense exhibition is to be subjected to a lot of companies looking to land some DoD business. It is, for lack of a better term, a battle of eye candy. And at the recently wrapped Navy League Sea Airspace 2025, one company's display definitely caught our attention because, well, it was awesome. Meet Q Intel, our weapon of the week. As far as conversation starters go, booth 1747, home to the team from Q Intel, was a pretty good one. With bright, bold colors and characters seemingly cut straight from a Frank Miller graphic novel, we had to stop and find out what their story is. That's how we met Keith Malarski, a former FBI agent and now Q Intel's global ambassador.
Our goal is really to track adversaries, and we do that through collections in cyberspace. We collect communications, IP addresses, things like that, but really our goal is to track adversaries. So APT or nation-state actors, criminal hackers, terrorists, that is our bread and butter.
And when you talk about, gathering the intel on them, the IP addresses, are you like searching their Facebook pages? You know what I mean? Like what? Can you kind of talk about the process of what information you're looking to gather?
Yeah, so what we do is it's all OSINT that we collect. So it could be breach data that is being sold on the Cyber Underground. It could be scraping a Cyber Underground forum or getting these communications from the bad guys, or looking at forensic copies of servers and seeing what the adversaries are doing. So those type of collections.
A quick look at Q Intel's equally eye-catching website reveals a glimpse into their ethos to deliver government-grade cyber intelligence on the most critical threats to our future. To this point, Malarski says most of the work is with elite law enforcement agencies all over the world, but they are working towards building bridges with U.S. government intel gatherers as well.
We want to enable them. We want to provide them with as much intelligence that's out there that can be collected into open source, and then allow them to use their other sensitive techniques to really take it to that next level. From like a DoD standpoint, being able to get you up to a trigger point, then you to use your techniques to then take it across to that next level.
One thing Q Intel might have going for it is not only their track record, but the recent change in American leadership.
The Secretary of Defense just said, that they want to use some, instead of developing platforms, use off-the-shelf things, and we think that we're really uniquely positioned to do that because we have that platform already built. And also really expanding into the commercial sector too, for network defense for Fortune 500 companies that are out there as well.
While Q Intel did not have any major news to share in the wake of Sea Airspace, the Pittsburgh-based startup did say their presence there sparked a lot of positive conversations as they look to build those inroads with government agencies. Time now for Comms Check, and this week we're revisiting a familiar face in an unfamiliar place. Lumina, the good folks behind the Mind Gem, not to be confused with Lumen, the shady folks behind Apple TV's smash hit Severance.
Welcome to Lumen. We're so happy you're here.
Spent the last few years working with more than a dozen Air Force bases to bring their expertise in augmenting mental fitness to the troops. Well, now they have their sights set on a different branch. Spend enough time covering the defense exhibition circuit, and you're bound to start running into some of the same folks you ran into at the previous conference or symposium. And that was the case when we ran into Brandon Murphy and Team Lumina at the Navy League's Sea Airspace 2025. A first for the mental health-centric startup out of Denver, Colorado.
The Mind Gym was forged in the Air Force's innovation program, so we built this with service members in mind, and we are so excited that because of the investment that the Air Force has made, we now have the ability to grow and scale into the Navy.
For those unfamiliar, a journey into the Mind Gym might resemble a scene from the 1982 classic, Tron. The reality is it's the result of years of dedicated effort aimed at assisting service members in high-stress, high-turnover roles. The goal is to enhance their mental resilience through a blend of isolation, reflection, light, and sound, creating an immersive cognitive training environment. Murphy, Lumina's CRO, says this approach helps regulate stress, enhances focus, and fosters resilience.
So what we're doing here is we're meeting with senior leadership across different commands, trying to understand what they see in our product, how to operationalize it, showing it to them personally, gathering their feedback, and making sure that it really matches the mission here and hopefully makes a big impact with their people.
Rivalries between the branches is, of course, nothing new, but so too is the spirit of collaboration when the situation calls for it. That's one reason why Murphy thinks the Mind Gym can find a home with our nation's maritime forces.
What we do is try to teach people skills to interact with that system to make them better operators, better people, better spouses, better employees, better whatever you are. And I think that translates all over the place. So
Murphy tells us one area of interest for the Navy could be in their submariner ranks. He said feedback from Navy leadership at Sea Airspace indicated submarine training bases where sailors are under a lot of pressure and optimal performance is the expectation, those places might be able to use what the Mind Gym offers. And the numbers back that up. According to an October 2024 report by Stars and Stripes, in 2020, the submarine community boasted an impressive 64% retention rate, outpacing the Navy's average of 54.3%. Fast forward just 4 years, and the gap between the two narrowed, with the submarine community's retention rate dropping nearly 6 points.
we have a lot of data that supports the case that we make a big impact at the Air Force, and hopefully that is seen here in the Navy. And I know that the warrior toughness is a big mission here, and I think we can support that in a huge way.
All opinions expressed in this segment are solely the opinions of the contributors.
Okay, we've come to the end of the line on this week's show. Hope you learned a lot, or at least a little. Either way, though, you should like and subscribe to all of our social media feeds to make sure you stay up to date on all the latest from weapons and warfare. For my wrap this week, I'm going to say a little about the cost of doing nothing. So if you go all the way back to episode 1 of our show, in that wrap, I talked about one of the motivating factors for the show was the fact that the U.S. spends almost $1 trillion a year on national defense. And we want to help explain why and where that money goes. So, why does the U.S. spend more on its military than the next 10 countries combined? Well, yes, there are some bloated budgets and waste involved in the accounting, but defense just costs more than offense. For instance, the cost of me throwing a rock at you is the amount of time and energy it takes for me to find a rock and then throw it. To defend against my rock, you'll need to know when, where, and how I'll be throwing that rock, and maybe you create a shield so my rock won't hurt you. Either way, you are spending more on your defense than I'm spending on my offense. See how this works? So, when the U.S. military spends millions per missile to down a drone that only costs a few $1,000s, it's of course not an ideal situation. But what's the cost of the alternative? What would be the cost of letting the cheap drones hit their targets? What's the cost of doing nothing? When a single drone was able to slip through Tower 22's defenses in Jordan, 3 U.S. service members were killed and dozens more were wounded. Now, I can tell you with absolute certainty the DoD and its industry partners are working to bring down that cost per engagement. But in the meantime, if defending American lives means spending millions, then that's a cost we have to pay. Don't take this as an endorsement for more war, though. No rational person wants warfare. But rationally speaking, I know there are times when doing nothing could cost you everything. For senior producer Brett Baker, video editor Brian Spencer, and graphics artist Dakota Patillo, I'm Ryan Robertson with Straight Arrow News, signing off.